Well, hello and welcome to my talk about evaluating perceptional tasks for medicine, a comparative user study between a virtual reality and a desktop application. First of all, I'd like to start with why we need this comparative study. Well, for most VR applications, we just utilize visualizations that have been used in desktop applications without considering if their performance might change for VR. For example, the commonly used Phong shading is also employed within many VR applications. In general, there is nothing wrong with that, but to the best of our knowledge, there is no study evaluating the performance of such commonly used visualizations in VR. Within this work, we like to provide insights for multiple visualizations and observe change in performance from desktop to VR applications. Another important point is that we tend to underestimate distance and shape in digital environment compared to real-world scenarios. This could be shown by a lot of prior research, and this might be fine for a lot of application or games, but if we consider precision-based tasks like surgical training, this can have devastating effects. As we cannot clearly identify why these errors occur, we do not want to go further down this road, but want to find ways to improve the overall performance by use of different visualizations. Therefore, we compared multiple visualizations within and between desktop and VR applications. So, what did we do in our work? Well, we evaluated the performance of several assistive and non-assistive visualization for desktop and VR applications. We thereby focused on shape and distance estimation and compared these assistive and non-assistive visualization between and within desktop and VR applications. For this, we performed a user study with 56 participants. The study was divided into two different tasks. Well, the first task was used to evaluate how accurately we can estimate distances. For this, we placed 3 indicators on top of our model surface, as you can see here on the right. Then each participant should place an additional sphere equidistant to all 3 indicators on the surface. This way we can observe how different visualization might help us to better understand distances. The second task was used to evaluate how accurately we can estimate shapes. For this task, each participant had to adjust an arrow which was anchored to the surface, as you can see on the right again. This arrow should be positioned in such a way that it corresponds to the face normal at the given location. Well, as you could already guess, the video has included one of our visualizations, which directly brings me to our next part, the chosen visualization. For our work, we chose 3 non-assistive visualizations, which were Phong, Toon, and Fresnel. The commonly used Phong shading might provide some insights into how light sources affect the way we perceive shape and distance. While the Toon shading, we were more interested if we can actually perceive shape and distances with a smaller amount of colors, or if we need a continuous quantity of colors. The Fresnel shading is an edge highlight shader, which might also be beneficial for shape and distance estimation. In addition to those, we included 4 assistive visualizations: Pseudo-Chromadepth or PCD, Heatmaps, Isolines, and Arrow Glyphs. PCD is a technique that has already been proven useful for depth visualization of vessels in desktop applications. So we were interested if this means that this visualization is also useful in VR. The heat maps are used to encode relative distances by means of colors. So the closer our reference points gets to the surface, the more red it is rendered. The Isolines also encode relative distances, but not by means of colors, but by lines. The Arrow Glyphs leverage the space between the reference points and the surface to convey the distance information. Here we use small arrows pointing towards the surface. With these visualizations in mind, we constructed our user study with constant feedback of medical and visualization experts. In total, we had the 7 different visualizations I mentioned before, which were Phong, Toon, Fresnel, PCD, Heatmaps, Isolines, and Arrow Glyphs. Every visualization is then performed with two different tasks: the prior presented distance and shape estimation task. In addition, we included two different types of meshes in our study. We did this because some visualization might benefit from a more uniform mesh, while others might benefit from a more complex structure. We included a liver model as our uniform model and the vessel 3 as our more complex one. All those configurations are then repeated at 3 different locations. And last but not least, we performed the study once as desktop and once as VR application, resulting in about 168 trials per participant. Each of our 56 participants took roughly an hour to complete the study. Alright, here you can see the results of our study. But don't be overwhelmed right now, we go through the graphic together. So, one of the most dominant results was that the timely performance in VR has always outperformed the desktop counterpart. For the visualizations, we could observe that the configuration of mesh and task has a dominant impact on the visualization's performance. For example, the Isolines show a huge performance increase compared to all other visualizations, but only for distance estimation on the more uniform liver model. Another example are the heat maps, which perform very good for shape estimation on the more complex vessel model. However, for the distance estimation task on the liver mesh, they perform worse than all other visualizations. So, what does this mean for us? Well, the key takeaway here should be that visualization matter. They can not only improve, but also decrease the perception of shape and distance. So, we first have to think about the task we want to perform before choosing an appropriate visualization. This is not specific for VR, but also for desktop applications. However, we could find that generally well-performing visualization for a desktop application could also perform very well in VR application. So keep in mind that visualization matter and think about what visualization you want to choose for what specific task. Yeah, that's my talk. Thank you for your attention and stay safe.